Russian missiles struck the outskirts of the southern port city of Odessa overnight. Ukrainian authorities said 7 missiles were fired and hit a shopping center and warehouse, killing at least 1 person. They suggested Russian troops were relying on old missiles with faulty targeting systems. The Russian military has said its key targets included storage and transport lines for Western weapons. The Pentagon said it was unclear how well Russian targeting was working, or the objectives of the strikes. Lithuania became the first country to declare Russia a perpetrator of terrorism, according to Ukraine's Center for Strategic Communications and Information Security. Lithuania's parliament also voted unanimously to designate Russia's actions in Ukraine as genocide, joining Canadian lawmakers in making this formal accusation. The U.S. may soon have an ambassador to Ukraine, for the first time since 2019. Congressional confirmation hearings began for President Biden's nominee, Bridget Brink, a veteran diplomat currently serving as ambassador to Slovakia. If confirmed, she will become the first Senate-approved envoy to Ukraine since former President Donald Trump fired Marie Yovanovitch, who later testified in Trump's first impeachment. Leonid Kravchuk, Ukraine's first president, who led the country to independence as the Soviet Union collapsed, died at 88. He was a driving force in Ukraine's declaration of independence from the USSR in 1991 and served as president until 1994. In 2020, he returned to politics to try to negotiate a settlement for the conflict in eastern Ukraine, where Russia-backed separatists had fought Ukrainian forces since 2014. The ripple effects of Russia's war in Ukraine are changing the world. Far from Russia's war in Ukraine, stores are running out of cooking oil, people are paying more at the gas pump, farmers are scrambling to buy fertilizer, and nations are rethinking alliance. Russia's invasion of Ukraine has triggered seismic repercussions, a fast-moving refugee crisis, unprecedented sanctions against a major economy, and a shake-up of global relationships, including a reinvigorated NATO. Below, we zoom in on some of the ways the world has changed since the war began on February 24. Ukraine and Russia are key exporters of wheat, barley, corn and cooking oil, particularly for African and Middle Eastern countries. Russia is also a major producer of fertilizer and petroleum. Disruptions to the flow of these goods are compounding other supply chain and climate challenges, driving up food and gas prices, causing shortages and pushing millions of people. More than 5.8 million people have fled Ukraine in one of the fastest growing refugee crises in recent history. Humanitarian groups, with resources already strained by crises elsewhere, have sprung into action. The UN Refugee Agency has projected that some 8.3 million people might leave Ukraine and called for more financial support for refugees and host countries as both face challenges with access to food, housing, transportation, education and a 21st century war in Europe, led by a nuclear power, is pushing the world toward a potentially profound realignment. It has rattled prominent global players such as the European Union and the United Nations and forced countries to take sides in new ways that have led to escalating tensions and momentous diplomatic shifts. Russia is the second largest producer of natural gas and the third largest producer of oil. The European Union has particularly depended on Russian energy. It is now preparing to phase in an oil embargo. A historic restructuring is sweeping the global petroleum and gas trade as countries ban or cut Russian energy imports, sanction Russian companies, face Russia's demands for payments in rubles and search for alternative sources. Russia has more nuclear weapons than any other country in the world. Its military attack on Ukraine has notably re-energized NATO, a military and political alliance of the United States and European countries. Urgently, countries around the world have escalated military spending or have begun a consequential re-evaluation of their defenses.